The 2020 excavation safety meetings focus on reviewing the basics of excavation safety. Each year, a quarter of our safety meeting attendees are new to the industry, so we wanted to be sure we are providing the necessary information regarding the excavation process and emphasizing the need to always keep safety in mind during every phase of a project. Part of being able to keep safety top of mind throughout the project is developing a written damage prevention plan. Take the time to think through all of the potential dangerous situations your crew could be put in and plan for how to handle them now so that you are prepared if they occur. Share this plan with your team so that they know their roles if an incident occurs. Train employees on damage prevention and encourage the use of industry best safety practices every day. Teach employees to do their own hazard risk review on the job site before they start each day and throughout the day as conditions change. Use a stop work plan if the safety climate changes and restart work after risks have been assessed and mitigated. Why is utility damage prevention important? Common Ground Alliance, an underground utility association devoted to education and data analysis, estimates there are over 20 million miles of facilities buried underground across the United States. That is enough pipe, conduit, fiber, and wire to wrap the earth 800 times. As the ground beneath our feet becomes congested with more and more of these utility lines, damage prevention is becoming increasingly important. This picture is from downtown Sun Prairie in July 2018 and is another reminder of why damage prevention is important. As a review, a crew installing communication lines did not have their own locate request and hit a gas line, which led to an explosion in downtown Sun Prairie. A first responder was killed, others were injured, and the city had to rebuild. This is why preventing damage to underground utility lines is so important. Despite the best efforts of everyone in the U.S. who promote utility damage prevention, a facility is damaged every 9 minutes. As we saw with the natural gas explosion in Sun Prairie in 2018, the impacts of utility damage go beyond the job site and can forever alter communities and families. Above all else, utility damage prevention is important because it is the law. Wisconsin Statute 182.0175 mandates that any person intending to excavate must take every precaution to avoid disturbing facilities and be prepared to properly handle an emergency if a facility is damaged. We know there are excavators who take the time to consider safety as they are planning and executing their work every day. Today we will introduce you to many of those contractors courtesy of Planet Underground's 17 Common Sense Heroes video. We will take a look at a select number of heroes today and learn what they do to keep their job sites and crews safe.
In every step of the design, installation, protection, and maintenance of underground utilities, there are people working diligently and innovatively to reduce damages. All of these people need and deserve to have their stories told, which is what we do here at Planet Underground TV. We'd like to thank our sponsors: Electric Conduit Construction, HBK Engineering, and C-Scan.
Excavators putting in telecom conduits for new fiber lines, hitting gas lines while they do so. That's our damage prevention industry's #1 concern right now. No sooner can we focus on one digging accident, another one occurs. I mean, what goes through the mind of somebody who's putting in a conduit and strikes a gas line? Well, maybe we need to think about what goes on in the minds of people who put in these lines successfully, who don't have damages. What is it that they think about?
Diggers Hotline is an independent, nonprofit corporation that started in 1976 to increase worker and public safety and to prevent damage to underground utility lines. Diggers Hotline's role is to take information from excavators and send it to the affected utilities near the dig site in order for buried utility lines to be marked. The utility owner of their contracted vendor goes to the site and marks the location of the underground lines. This service is offered free of charge. Wisconsin State Statute Chapter 182 requires excavators to contact Diggers Hotline 3 working days before the soil is disturbed. Not contacting Diggers Hotline before excavating can result in costly and potentially deadly damages to underground utility lines. Contacting Diggers Hotline isn't just the safe thing to do, it is the law. There are multiple ways to contact Diggers Hotline, including different options for both phone and online. You can contact Diggers Hotline by dialing 800-242-8511 or simply 3-digit dialing 811 from any phone in Wisconsin. There are also different ways to file a locate request online at diggershotline.com. But please remember, Diggers Hotline does not do the actual field locating of the utility lines. That is the responsibility of the utilities. After contacting Diggers Hotline, you will get a ticket that you keep with you at the job site. The ticket is your legal proof that you filed a locate request with Diggers Hotline. The ticket also lists the start date and time when you are legally cleared to dig and has a list of the utilities that were notified about your excavation. Make sure to compare the marks at the job site with the list of utilities listed on your locate request. Remember, preventing damages to utilities starts with planning the project. Make sure you are familiar with your job site so that you can provide clear and accurate marking instructions to Diggers Hotline. Clear and accurate marking instructions mean something more descriptive than mark entire site. The best way to do this is to visit the job site in person. Another tool you can use to communicate clear and precise marking instructions is to use white paint and flags to indicate the area you will be working in to make it clear to locators what needs to be marked out. Think of using white paint and flags as a way to communicate directly with the field locator who will be showing up at your job site. Diggers Hotline offers different locate request types for different situations, but some general rules apply to most ticket types. 1 address per locate request. Each excavator needs to have their own locate request, even subcontractors working under a general contractor, and tickets are good beginning 3 working days after being requested and remain valid as long as work begins within 10 days and as long as there are no stoppages of work of 10 days or more. One of the ticket types that does not fit into the 1 address, 1 ticket rule is a stretch of road ticket. This ticket type is used for utility or municipal work along one stretch of road. There's a length limit of 2 miles on this ticket, and the maximum radius at an intersection that can be requested is 100 feet. Utility main burials, tree plantings, and road construction are examples of work that can be filed with a stretch of road ticket. Any laterals or work at individual addresses must be covered with additional tickets. An appointment ticket is a good option for large and complicated projects. An excavator sets a time to meet the utility locators at the job site and go over the extent of the job site. This ends up being a 6 working day ticket, 3 days for the appointment and then 3 more days for the utilities to mark their lines at the job site. If the area of the excavation has an address, each address should be its own individual ticket. Multiple vertical dig site tickets are used for projects with several dig sites in one municipality. Examples of digging that work well with this ticket type are tree plantings, fire number sign installations, utility pole replacements, and soil borings. A multiple vertical dig site ticket is filed as an appointment and requires meeting with the locators to work out the schedule. Because it's a type of appointment ticket, it is a 6 working day ticket. The excavator must work closely with the locator by providing a project map or list of addresses to allow the locator enough time to mark the lines. A project ticket is another variation of an appointment ticket. It is used for large excavations that will need many relocates. Meet with the locators at the job site, discuss the size and scope of the project, and set up the locate schedule. All parties should sign off on the schedule on a meet sheet. The excavator can contact the locator directly for relocates for the duration of the project. Relocates can also be filed with Digger's Hotline. Here is a blank sample meet sheet. You can download your own copy under More Resources for Contractors on the Digger's Hotline website. Emergency locate requests are for excavation that has to begin before 3 working days. The state law limits what kind of work qualifies for an emergency locate request to unexpected excavation due to possibility of loss of life or limb, possibility of property damage, or to repair an existing facility. Scheduling issues or not wanting to wait 3 days are not reasons to request emergency locates. Utilities have 1 hour to mark or to let you know when they will be able to mark the job site. Relocates are available if your marks fade out or are destroyed due to construction activity, weather, or any other reason. When the marks need refreshing, or if you haven't started your work within 10 days of the start date and time, or if your work has been interrupted for 10 days or more, you'll need to get a relocate from There's a new relocate type that has been added, and it's called a no-show relocate. If there has been no response from locators and you are on site within 10 days of the ticket start date and time, you may file a no-show relocate. Utilities will have 1 hour to either mark the job site or let you know when it will be marked. The excavator should indicate which utilities have responded so that the no-show relocate can go to only the utilities that failed to respond. There's a new program being unveiled this spring called Positive Response that is designed to get more information into the hands of the excavator. It's a voluntary program for Digger's Hotline members, the utilities, to use, but the program does allow excavators to get information about the status of their locate requests. You can get the updates on the status of your locate requests by using the ticket search engine or one of the portal options on the Digger's Hotline website, or checking the email that is sent when your start date and time passes. Because this is a voluntary program, we can't require all utility members to use the system. If a utility is not providing information into the positive response system, they will be identified as not participating. Utility members who are using positive response to report the status of locate requests can enter status updates such as complete, delay, pending, or working with excavator. The online portals at diggershotline.com can be used to check positive response, but they can also be used to file locate requests online. There are a few different types of portals that are designed for different types of needs. The Pro Portal and Portal Lite are designed for professional excavators, and there's also a portal for members of Digger's Hotline. The main advantage of Portal Lite is being able to enter ticket information directly into our system with no training required. Pro Portal is a more advanced system for experienced users. All ticket types can be filed with the Pro Portal, along with the ability to create your own relocates and map your job sites. Training is required before using the Pro Portal. There's also a DIY portal designed for homeowners. It is not a good idea for professional excavators to use the DIY portal, as there are certain questions that are not asked of homeowners that are asked of professionals. For information on the portals, click File a Request at diggershotline.com. On the portal login page, you can sign up by clicking the link on the top right. On the Sign Up page, fill out the contact information and then choose on the left side of the page which portal you are signing up for. Let's get back to our project. You have requested a locate, so now let's take a look at what happens while you are waiting for the locators to do their work. While you are waiting, what is going on at the job site? Multiple utility companies or their contracted locators will be summoned to your job site based on the Digger's Hotline ticket that was generated. They will reference digital prints of underground facilities located at the site and mark the area indicated on the ticket or white flagged by you. Once they have completed the job, they will log back into the Digger's Hotline system to note the ticket has been completed. Now that the site is marked, how do you interpret those colors and codes? Locators use the American Public Works Association color coding system for marking underground facilities. Look for these colors on your job site after the locators have visited and note the utility they represent. Yellow is gas, oil, petroleum, and steam. Red is electric. Orange, communication, cable, TV, alarm, and signal. Blue for water, irrigation, and slurry lines. Green, sewer and drain lines, and white for proposed excavation. In addition to the colored paint and flags, locators may also use facility and material abbreviations to indicate which facilities are present on your job site, as shown here. Also, labeling may include size and owner of the facility. You may also see some of these common underground construction descriptions. Why should you carefully read these marks? Detailed labels will help you learn a lot about the buried facility, including its size, type, material type, and owner. They will help you identify facilities when you are potholing to expose them. For instance, if you are potholing and find a 2-inch plastic gas main, but we're looking for a 2-inch steel gas main, you will know you need to keep looking. If you are unable to find a utility that is labeled, contact the utility owner. Here are some examples of how to read these labels. This marking is for a 20-inch high-pressure steel gas main. The facility owner is WPL. This marking indicates a 12-inch steel gas main. This marking is for a 6-inch water facility. This is an example of a marking for an 8-inch clay sewer or drain. When looking at the marks on your job site, you may also see marks indicating there are no utilities present. Okay, no, clear, and no conflict are some examples of this labeling. You may also find clear or no. You've waited the required 3 days and are just about ready to dig. But before you do, take the time to compare your locate ticket to the marks on the job site to be sure all utilities notified have responded. Take pictures to document the marks and the work area. This can help you if there is a damage. Review the site safety hazards and marks with your crew at daily toolbox meetings. Do your best to preserve the locator marks as you work. If there is even the slightest confusion or discrepancy, call the locator or utility company for clarification. Let's look at what some of the common sense heroes do as they prepare their work sites before digging.
The good news is that there are contractors out there who don't have damages because they do things the right way. How they conduct their work and how they think about their work while they're doing it is instructional footage that everyone in the underground utility world needs to see.
Best practices for pre-construction activity, we like to suggest the use of a pre-job briefing. That's where we're going to do a task hazard analysis. The foreman will look at the site and the task being performed, break it down into a step-by-step basis, and then look at each hazard involved for each of those. They're going to then specify how they mitigate those hazards step by step.
One of the things that is so important in underground damage prevention is to do a pre-construction meeting with your crew. Make sure that you have a toolbox meeting, talk about all the hazards, safeties on the job, look at the locates out there, make sure you have an 811 ticket with you at all times, have everything that you need either in your hand or on an app or something that you can use.
Number one, find your utilities. I think that's first and foremost before you even put that rod in the ground. You got to make sure that everything is marked, everything is accurately marked, and you know, basically going over that drill, make sure everything's in proper working order, and you know, it's like any other machine. It's not going to have any give when it comes to your bones or anything like that. So, you know, it's a dangerous machine. That's for sure. It's got some, you know, don't let the size fool you, because they got some power.
Before digging, walk the site and look for the obvious above-ground indicators of utilities like manhole covers, electrical boxes, etc. Don't assume there are no utilities because there are no marks. If you have walked the site and can see that you are missing marks that you would expect to find, you can call Digger's Hotline for a relocate or the facility owner for clarification. If marks are confusing or you don't understand them, contact the facility owner directly to clarify. Let's see how the common sense heroes verify the utilities that should be on their job sites.
So when on different jobs doing directional boring, or people that you've talked to during directional boring, what is the worst accident you've heard of happening during that task?
Most of them, I believe, would be gas main hits. I actually been a part of one. It was several years ago. Directional drilling job. We actually drilled through an 8-inch main line pressure NICOR gas main, and it shut down a mile radius of the area. It was just a bad situation. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. The outcome was good. It was mislocated quite a ways.
So what do you guys do to try to avoid having a situation like that happen? What do you do to avoid that mismarking of utility lines such as gas?
What I've learned in the last several years that I've been here is typically with gas and electric, if we're potholing and we don't find something, that kind of raises the flag a little bit. Typically we can dig a window on it and drill through it, but with gas and electric, I typically don't like to do that. Maybe we'll get the locator back out to see maybe if he missed something or maybe it wasn't hooked up right, to see why we're not finding what we're looking for.
Well, if you're not safe running that drill and you're not finding your laterals as you're crossing them, gas, for instance, if you clipped a 1-inch gas service to a home, and even if we didn't know about it, the risk could be severe. That natural gas could run up that trench line to that home, ignite, and actually explode that home.
There's no shortage of utility contractors that double check all the utility marks before they begin any sort of construction project. They use their own locating equipment.
Just to know when you're walking out a shot, looking for those topside services, looking for the gas meters, make sure it's marked out. You know, circling around the entire house and looking where every utility along the house or along a business is located at. And then, I mean, if it's located or not, we still hook up to it just to make sure it's not in our bore path. We cover all our bases. We have every utility accounted for in our bore path.
You've planned your job, called Digger's Hotline for a locate request, and walked the site to confirm all of the utilities. Now you are ready to dig. Let's review the safe practices that will help you verify the utilities that have been marked. The tolerance zone in Wisconsin is 18 inches from the outer edge of the paint mark placed by the locator plus half the width of the facility. The locator marks indicate the line or pipe, so measurements should be made to the left and right of those marks. Within this zone, excavators must use soft digging techniques such as hand digging or vacuum excavation to locate the utilities before any machines can be used to continue the excavation. When the facility has been exposed, you may reduce the clearance to 2 times the known limits of the cutting edge of the equipment or 12 inches, whichever is greater. Using a spotter is an excavation best practice for safely maneuvering around the exposed facility. Transmission companies, whether it's gas, electric, or fiber, almost always require a rep on site if you are excavating within a certain distance of their facility. The utility will let the excavator know if this is required after they have located the site. Let's look at examples of how the everyday heroes handle the task of properly exposing facilities.
I'm physically watching our tool head cross this utility that we already shot past. We're pulling our product back in the ground. I make sure we have the plywood under there to protect that underneath our rod to protect that gas service, and I'm keeping him with my locator in 12 o'clock to make sure I know what clock position he is in, passing that, and I'm in constant contact with him over the radio to make sure that he does not rotate, nothing happens. We get past this utility safely before he continues to rotate and core out his hole pulling back.
Granted, there are telecom boring jobs where nothing is potholed, like this job in New Orleans a few years back. Certainly, potholing all the mark utilities all the time is much better than just boring deep and assuming that the bore is running too deep to hit anything. Exposing all the mark lines on a bore project is better than not exposing any of them at all. Just setting the bore at 11 foot, 12 foot, and assuming that you're running deep enough not to hit any of the marked lines. But by exposing all the lines, but not down to the depth of your excavation, simply stopping when you expose the mark lines, saying I found the line, now I'll just go deeper, that can have tragic results too, as we saw in the JJ's restaurant explosion in Kansas City in 2013. The contractor for the telecom company saw 2 marks, a yellow mark and a red mark. When they potholed the marks, there were 2 black conduits laid side by side. Those conduits were 2 foot deep. The contractor then decided to set his bore depth at 3 foot, but as they bored underneath the exposed conduits, they struck a 2-inch plastic gas main that was exactly 3 foot deep.
So if you're hand digging down to the depth of your excavation and your bore depth is 5 feet, you dig down 3 feet, you find a line, you think that's your target line, but it really isn't. It could be an abandoned line. It could be a live line, but then there's another live line 2 feet underneath it. So you really have to use the best practices of hand digging down to the depth of excavation within the tolerance zone, making sure all the marks make sense.
Well, first thing we do, we'll start hand digging to try and find these utilities, see if they make sense first. Then we'll start hand digging to try and find them. Julie's rule is 18 inches. Our company goes 3 feet. So, we always want to try to find that utility before we bore, and not just say, oh, it's not here, let's just continue on.
With all the cable going in the ground these days, everything's getting congested, so doing a lot of hand digging, prudently hand digging and exposing all our utilities and making sure we find everything before we stick that tool head in the ground.
East, west, north, south, however we're gonna bore, we definitely have to depend on what these utilities are telling us, and that's gonna dictate where we run. A lot of times we might run at 3 feet, there's other times we might have to run at 8 feet. It all depends on those utilities and where they're at. That's gonna dictate our bore path eventually.
Plan your excavation based on your knowledge of the site and what you are digging near. Understand what the potential impacts could be if a line is struck and plan the excavation accordingly. Properly support or protect exposed facilities to prevent stress or damage. Remember that excavators are responsible for the utilities on the job site as well as those surrounding the site. Use your knowledge about the job site to determine how you approach your excavation, and don't hesitate to make adjustments to that plan, even if it means taking more time to complete the job, as we see here.
I just dealt with one a month ago. 20-inch high pressure main, 6-inch high pressure main, 8-inch standard pressure main, 2-inch standard pressure main, all ran down this road between the boulevards and in the street. And when I got on site, the driller says, well, I'm gonna do this, and we'll see if we can snake through like this, and I'll probably have to set up right here, and I don't know if we'll maybe have to set up twice. And I said, look, number one, I don't want you within 2 feet of that 20-inch high pressure main. Number two, I said, let's just stop and think about this. Are we better off to open cut this road, half the road at a time, get our traffic in place, and hydrovac it, instead of even trying to drill, instead of even taking the chance? That is exactly what we did. We cut the blacktop, we brought our big hydrovac out there, we hydrovaced the trench. So you gotta weigh out, it's a very populated area. And when I explained to the crews, they said, well, that'll take this much extra time and we'll have to do this. And I said, look around you. This is all residential. We get into any one of these mains and we cause an explosion, what's gonna happen? Can you sleep with yourself at night? Because I can't. And as quality assurance, I can't let you do this. So we're gonna take the safest route, whether it takes us more time or not, and we're gonna back this trench open and not even take that chance.
If you hit a gas, electric, or fiber optic communication line, would you know what to do? Have you shared that information with everyone on the job site? Here's a review of how to identify the signs of gas leaks, as well as what to do in the event of a gas, electric, or fiber optic communication line hit. Use your senses to detect a gas leak. Look for bubbling in wet areas, abnormally dry or hard soil, discolored or dead vegetation. Listen for hissing noises, and smell for an unusual odor or rotten egg smell, although not all lines will have an added odorant. If a gas line is hit and gas is escaping, stop work, shut down equipment and do not use phones and lighters, evacuate the site and move upwind, call 911 to notify police and fire personnel after leaving the breach area, which is required by law, call the utility to notify them of the hit, block off the area to keep people away, do not attempt to fix damage or operate pipeline equipment yourself, and do not bury the leak, as this can cause the gas to migrate underground. If a gas line is nicked and gas is not escaping, stop work, call the utility to notify them of the damage. Even minor damage like nicks, scratches, dents, and cut tracer wires can cause issues in the future if not repaired promptly and properly. Do not attempt to fix it yourself. Electric safety tips. Always assume any electrical cable is energized. Do not handle electric lines. Look up, pay attention, and maintain the proper distance from overhead electrical lines. Do not stage construction materials or equipment under power lines. Suggested OSHA safe distances from overhead lines. At least 10 feet away from distribution lines, at least 16 feet away from transmission lines, and at least 20 feet away from cranes and similar equipment. Consult with the utility owner to ensure the safe distance. Do not dig in the right-of-way of electric transmission lines. If an electric line is hit, stop work and stay on the equipment if it can't be moved until the facility owner cuts power. If the equipment can be safely moved, do so. Warn others to stay clear to reduce the chances of touch potential, as the ground may be energized. Contact the facility owner to explain the situation. Call 911 if assistance is needed to keep the area safe. If you must exit the equipment because your life is in danger, jump clear, landing on 2 feet and shuffle away. Fiber optic and communication cable safety. Damage to these cables can take 911 and hospital communication services offline, putting lives in danger. Damage can interrupt voice, cell, and data services to homes and businesses, costing time and money. Cost of repairs to fiber optic cables are often higher than other cable types. If a fiber optic cable is hit, stop work and secure the area. Call the facility owner immediately. Do not look into the end of the damaged cable as the light can cause injury, and barricade the damage to protect the public and workers. We hope you will use this information to keep safety top of mind throughout the year. Use frequent toolbox meetings to reinforce safety best practices at every job site. Review your damage prevention plan with the whole crew as new hazards become apparent. And reach out to utility companies for additional damage prevention training. Let's hear from our final common sense hero.
But what saves us even more is the prudent excavator. The folks who do it right, every time. The common sense heroes.
I mean, you get your locates that are on the ground, you see where they're at, you start digging, you put your running line in, and you just do your due diligence. You know, 2 feet of that mark, you got to be careful. You got to hand dig down and find it yourself. I don't trust anybody. You know, I'm in charge of my crew and making sure they go home safe every day. And if I trust a locator who had a bad day and put that gas mark there and it's 3 feet off and I don't pay attention, notice the change in the ground, change in the sand, any small change that we notice from our experience, we just do our due diligence, dig down by hand, find it, and we know we're good. I use that as, the locates I use as a reference. It's in this vicinity. I don't trust them.
I just heard a quote within the last few days that I really, really love. The U.S. damage prevention system, it depends on 100% of the people doing the right thing 100% of the time, all the time, through the duration of every single project. Think about that. If one person doesn't do the right thing, it puts the whole project at a higher risk of having a tragic incident.
Don't forget that our industry, like many others, is losing veteran workers to retirement every day. Now is the time to tap into those soon-to-retire employees before you lose their years of knowledge forever. Not only must we hire new workers to replace those retiring, we must also download their vast knowledge to help train the next generation of workers. Consider creating a mentoring program that is long enough to capture all of that information, maybe months or even years long. Remember that mentoring is the fastest way to build an employee's skill set, since most field experiences can't be taught in a traditional classroom. If you would like to see all 17 Common Sense Heroes in its entirety, you can visit www.planetunderground.tv. From everyone at Diggers Hotline, have a safe 2020.